What's up, guys? This is a bit more of a chill video, kind of shooting from the hip here, but I have some thoughts and feel like they need to be said. We all know that EA are a bunch of liars, cheaters, and stealers, but I want to break down the extent to which they are liars, cheaters, and stealers, and I want to do this from a developer's point of view. Now, I've never developed a game that is this big or large in scale per se, but I do have some insight that I can provide and try to scratch the surface of the EA Corporation's scam that they call video games. Alright, let's get into it. First of all, this is pathetic right here. These are the types of screenshots they're showing for UFC 5 that they're promoting. I mean, this PS2 looking model right here is supposed to look like this, and forget the likeness, this is the modern day. Any game can tout good graphics, but this is kind of pathetic. This literally looks like a PSP port of a PS2 game. It's just insane. And here's another one. Right here you have a guy. This is the same exact animation. This is the same model animation that you do when you transition to a takedown from the clinch or something. I mean, it's the same exact animation. New models, that's it. That's not a lot of work. And obviously, as you can see, these guys have no emotions in their faces. I mean, literally all you have to do is copy and paste the code. That's it. Let's go to the next one. Pathetic. What is this? Seriously, what is this? Can somebody explain? I don't know if it's just the screenshot itself. I highly doubt it. But most of the time, when you're promoting material, you should have the highest quality pictures of your game. And the fact that these are coming from, the official EA accounts, and they're coming out looking like this, is pathetic. Now, I wanted to get into the game modes. They made a video all about the game modes, and I just want to tell you guys all the lies they're giving to you. Because all these new game modes are really just, basically, you have a boilerplate game mode, which is the MMA fight mode, and then they tell you that we're giving you guys all these options to customize. Really, all that is they probably added like 5 or 6 lines of code that allows you to change a variable of when the game gets instantiated, right? So imagine that you have a game, right, and you have like 5 or 6 sliders that determine how fast the striking is going to be, how much health you start out with, etc., right? And usually those sliders are those variables, right, are set variables, right? But here they're giving you the ability to customize them. It's not that hard. Literally all they wrote was 2 or 3 lines of code that allows the user to change the variable, the number of the slider, right? So this is pathetic. Next up, it's the same exact deal. Actually, I think this is pretty cool. This is actually from the UFC career mode. I've never played UFC career mode, but I'm gonna take the word of 95% of people who've commented on YouTube videos, Twitter comments, Instagram, that it's the exact same thing. So basically, it seems that they've copy and pasted career mode, right? Which is likely just a set of matches where you try to progress, develop your fighter, unlock new moves, blah blah, and essentially all they've really added are a few cutscenes with Valentina Shevchenko, right? Probably the only fighter that they were able to get on premise to get her motion cap and voice lines and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, and they call it a new game mode. That's a lie. Next thing is, you might think, oh, this UI looks cool, blah blah. I would say this UI probably took a lot of work. So you know what? Kudos to you, UI developer. UI is user interface. But still not an excuse for the lame amount of changes that have happened to the game as a whole. Now, UI, all the UI really is just the actual function of the code is the same. It's like if you had a car, right, and the engine, the axle, the wheel, all that stuff didn't change. All that they changed was just the paint of the car. That's not a substantial amount of code change. It's not a substantial amount of work. That's not 3 years worth of work. This is probably like 2 months worth of work. And that's just the UI of the entire game. I'm not talking about this one screen. Next up, now this is the catalyst of the demise of the gaming industry as a whole. It's a thing called cosmetics and pay-to-win techniques. Now, a really good YouTuber by the name of Critical, Uncut something. Basically, he kind of he started to talk about how the gaming industry as a whole is pretty much in turmoil, and it's true. If you look at Modern Warfare 3, that's literally just Modern Warfare 2.5. If you look at all these AAA games, they're just the same game copied over with a few updates here and there that should have been done early on in the game's life cycle. And the thing is, you wonder, okay, games are not dropping DLCs, games are not focused on really good gameplay. How are these games making money? And that's off of two things. One is the cosmetics, and that is just the killer of games, because you take out all the passion of a video game and instead you focus all its resources on trying to make as much money as possible. And two is obviously the influencers. You can go watch that other YouTuber's video to kind of delve deeper into why that's a problem. But the problem here is that, and the problem with actually any form of entertainment, music, TV, movies, games, if you've noticed that all of our favorite shows, games, forms of entertainment are being ruined, it's because of the fact that they were seen as, these big business models. What tends to happen is you have these executives, people who are quote unquote supposedly supposed to be good at making money, who come into high positions of power, and they take control of the direction of all these games, and they control where the resources are being allocated. And a lot of the resources allocate stuff like this. And when that happens, you take away from any ability for the developers themselves, who actually might have a passion to make the games, well, to put their hearts into it. So that sucks. Now, this is the type of guy I'm talking about. In one of their videos, I don't remember exactly what this dude's position was, but it's something like the product owner or business analyst, something like that. Basically, this dude probably doesn't have a care in the world for UFC, gaming, etc. He's just a dude who understands a little bit about how business works, a little bit about how numbers work, but he doesn't really understand the soul of gaming, the soul of UFC, he's not a guy who wants to play a good fighting game. He's just a dude who probably has a good portfolio and was hired by like executives to lead the direction of the game. And yeah, this guy right here, bum, probably. Don't call me on that. Next, we have this pathetic excuse of a mistake that they tried to relinquish. Basically, it was leaked that the game would only be rotating the weight classes every 24 hours. You see this number right here, and they claimed that it was just a build version of the game, and that it was a mistake, it was updated. No, that's a complete lie. Why I say this is because they had already released the beta. They're literally a few weeks out from release. Something like this, especially in a demo, would not be there if it wasn't meant for the original game. Now, probably in Marshall Mind's most recent video, he and others mentioned that it was a mistake that they fixed. No, that's not it. This is literally a couple of variables that you gotta change. It's not that hard, but yeah, this was the original plan, and I guess after the backlash, they changed it. And that just goes to show how quick and easy these changes can be made, right? Right? They're like, most of the changes they've done in 3 years is stuff like this. It could be done within an hour. You see what I'm saying? And they just sugarcoated it with like new UI work, which again, kudos to the UI guy. That guy did a good job. Now, here we come to one of the biggest lies of the 21st century. We all know EA is one of the greatest perpetuators of making the same game over and over, selling the same thing over and over with just a few updates. And, this is a bit of an exception to the rule, because usually they, at the very least, if the UFC 5 was released a year after UFC 4, we could be a little more forgiving, right? It's like, okay, fine, it's the same game with a few updates, fine, I'll accept that. But 3 years, us waiting 3 years kind of gave us all some hope that, hey, maybe EA is trying to change the status quo, but maybe EA is trying to do something new and actually develop a good game. And when we got this trailer, when this trailer dropped with these amazing graphics and animations, I was astounded personally. I thought, okay, finally, things are beginning to change, the curse is over, 2020 COVID times, probably people had more time on their hands to do some actual work, and they decided, hey, let's make UFC 5 a great game. No, this was a complete lie, and it's depressing because if you go back to the video and watch like all the animations, for example, this amazing grappling sequence by Michael Chandler where he ducks down, does a double leg, and then throws him off his side. I mean, why, if they put in all that work to do the motion capture, why the heck not grab that motion capture and implement it into the UFC 5 game? It's not that hard. You already have the motion capture. You just gotta take those mocap points and put them into the new models, right? Make a new animation, and then all you gotta do is whatever buttons are used to trigger a takedown at a certain point, add this in instead of the same exact takedowns every 5 seconds. Have a random number generator that basically decides whether you're gonna do a takedown like this or a takedown that we already have. It's not that hard. That would literally take a month of work if you're exaggerating already at that point. Hire me and I'll do it in a week. This beautiful takedown right here, like, come on, they already have the motion capture for it. And then there's the other one with like Islam where he drives Volkanovski to the cage, and then he does that sacrificial throw where he basically drops down on his back and throws the opponent over his chest. I mean, again, you have the motion capture. Just take those points. How motion capture works is they get these guys in these costumes, they put in all these points all over the body so that they can map those points into the character models that they have, and then that's how they make an animation, right? Literally, that's all it takes. Why is this not in the game? Instead, we just have the same exact copy-paste game with different lighting. Hey, you see this lighting? You guys think this is any special at all? This is not special. All they did was change in a few sliders in the game engine to change the lighting. That's it. That's all this is. Obviously, these pants, same thing. You just take a render, right? It'd probably take like what, a week for like the UI guy. Again, kudos to you, UI guy, to take the render and just drop it in the pants skin. It's not that difficult at all. It's a complete joke. I mean, everyone's praising this. Oh, Sean O'Malley's hair. Whoa, get the hell out of here with that shit. All right. And now, don't let this fool you. Do not let this fool you. One of the things that they praised so much about the game was this thing right here. This I don't know what they're referring it to as, but it's like the damage indicators and whatnot, and this specific one is what triggers the doctor stoppage, right? Let me explain to you guys in my head how I theorize the code was written for this, okay? It's just a high-level overview, but this is basically it. Basically, right, you have a data model, right, that collects the amount of hits a certain part of the body takes, right? And then on top of that, there's probably like, multipliers, right? Depending on, let's say, for example, you try to slip to the left, but the opponent is hooking to the left, right? That's going to be more damaging than just a regular hook to the left, right? Or if you were blocked. They just take that data model, they just collect a bunch of numbers, and based on a number that it reaches, they trigger the icon to pop up, whether it's a yellow icon, orange, or red, for the damage indicator. And based on which icons get triggered, a signal is probably sent out to the rest of the backend code that say, okay, this guy's leg is at orange, so his leg kick should be less damaging, or he should be limping. Finally, this guy's his indicator is at dark red. Let's do a doctor stoppage. And then they have probably a random number generator that determines whether the doctor is going to stop the match or not. Or maybe it's used with the calculation. But the point is, this literally would take, with what's already there, is a 2-month effort. You know, a 2-month effort at most. It is a great addition, I'm not going to lie. But don't let this be their excuse to tell you, hey, it took me 3 years to do this. That is a complete lie, right? And let's go to this guy. This guy right here is one of the developers. I envy this man. I wish I had this man's job. This man is him and the other developers are some of the luckiest developers in the world. And it is probably very hard to get into this guy's position just because of, you know, how hard it is to break into a really good game developer's position. He probably worked really hard to get to the position, but I gotta say, dude is probably being paid big money to spend a lot of his time just sitting around doing one code change a month, and he is just living the life right now. He's making that software developer money, that senior developer money, and at the same time he's playing the system, right? EA executives having they don't know their butts from a hole in the ground. So when this guy tells them, oh yeah, it's gonna take me like 10 years to develop a new strike animation, they probably believe it. So yeah, lucky dude. Now, here's another thing. This is one thing that's kind of terrible. Somehow, some way, EA convinced all of these influencers to make these hype videos, these breakdown videos about how this new game is going to be amazing. That's a complete lie. And I don't know how, but they must have paid these guys big money, because you can tell, like, this dude, for example, does not have his soul. You know, the eyes are a window to the soul, and all I see here is an abyss of darkness. You know, that soul was sold to the devil for the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell his eyes do not relay the same emotion that the bottom half of his face show, and that's clearly because the dude is just reading a script and, you know, just doing what he was told. Yeah, this is stupid. I just want to say that. They put in more work into developing this poster than they did into developing the game. Now, this video is just oh, that's his name. I'm a boxer, right? And our homeboy Kirk Gibbons, another one of the luckiest people on this planet who's making big bucks for doing nothing. This is the fakest video I've ever seen in my life. Two dudes rambling off from a script, and they didn't even cut out the fact that they're looking at the script. You can tell. I grabbed some screenshots. They're legit reading off a script, acting like they're talking to each other and trying their best to be as hype as possible. I mean, at least this guy does a good job of faking it, right? This dude right here, man, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, here he is reading the script. It's hilarious. Yeah, and here's our other guy reading the script. I mean, it's quite obvious. And I think that's it. Yeah, pathetic game, pathetic developers. You know, I wouldn't say pathetic. They're just taking advantage of an easy situation. Mostly it's the executives and that kind of thing that's the problem. And honestly, the one and only way that we'll ever have a solution is, number one, the influencers need to call these people out. And number two, the influencers have a power to influence the rest of us to probably go on a strike and say, you know what, we all want to play the UFC 5 because it's UFC 4.5. We all hate UFC 4, but I think we'd hate UFC 4.5 just a little bit less. So we're probably going to get the game. But at the very least, a full boycott is not going to work. But at the very least, we should all gather and decide, hey, we're not going to pay more than $30 for this half-baked game.